There is a question that has haunted men for centuries. What is the fastest way to get rich? People spend their lives searching for the answer, clinging to books, gurus, and advice that promises a secret shortcut. Yet the truth has never been hidden. It has been sitting in plain sight, guarded not by mystery, but by indifference. The wealthy already know it, and because they know it, they have no interest in teaching it to you. Why would they? To reveal it openly would mean the end of their advantage. It would mean that you stop building their systems and start building your own. The first truth Machiavelli would whisper in your ear is this: wealth is not a prize for the most intelligent, nor a reward for the hardest worker. If that were the case, teachers would rule society, construction workers would live in palaces, and nurses would dine with kings. But reality is harsher. Money gravitates not toward virtue, but toward power. It flows to the man who understands how to bend situations to his will, how to see opportunity before others do, and how to use people as instruments in his design. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims. Translated into wealth, most are blind to the game, and because they are blind, they serve. This is the uncomfortable truth. Most people will never become rich, not because they lack ability, but because they refuse to abandon the mindset that enslaves them. They cling to safety. They believe the slow path of saving every coin, of working for decades in loyalty to a company, of playing by rules someone else wrote, will somehow free them. Machiavelli would laugh at this delusion. He knew that men are more easily deceived by the appearance of things than by the reality. And the appearance of stability, steady wages, retirement plans, polite promises of security is nothing more than a gilded cage. If you want speed, you must understand this dichotomy: the servant's path and the prince's path. The servant waits, obeys, and survives. The prince acts, commands, and expands. Safe is slow. Bold is fast. This is why when you see a man rise seemingly overnight, his ascent always looks like magic to the masses. Yesterday he was unknown. Today he dominates headlines, runs companies, or reshapes industries. But nothing about his rise was accidental. It was strategy. It was the application of principles older than war itself. Consider the Medici family of Florence. They were not warriors, yet they ruled as if they were kings. They built their empire by controlling finance, by turning money into a weapon sharper than any sword. They understood what few dared to see. Wealth is born not in labor, but in leverage. In our own time, the names have changed, but the pattern has not. Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg, none of them became rich by working harder than the average man. They became rich by building systems where other people's time, other people's money, and other people's attention worked on their behalf. And here lies the hidden torment of the average man. He mistakes effort for advancement. He thinks sweat is the currency of wealth, but sweat without power buys only exhaustion. Look around. Who digs the hardest? Who labors the longest? It is the poor. And yet who commands the flow of riches? It is those who never lift the stone themselves, but command others to do it for them. Machiavelli captured this centuries ago when he wrote, "The man who becomes master of a city, accustomed to freedom, and does not destroy it, will be destroyed by it." Replace city with system. The man who enters the game without controlling it becomes its servant. The wealthy do not glorify hard work because they value it. They glorify it because it benefits them. They need armies of men who believe the path to wealth is obedience. And so, society tells you to be diligent, to be patient, to sacrifice decades in exchange for a pension that barely feeds you. But what is that, if not slavery with a smile? You are trained to build palaces, but never to own them. You spend the best years of your life constructing someone else's fortune, while being told that one day, if you are lucky, you may retire quietly in modest comfort. This is why Machiavelli insisted that appearances are the most dangerous of illusions. Appearances tell you that working harder leads to freedom. Reality shows the opposite. Hard work without leverage leads to chains. The only path that accelerates wealth is the path of power, commanding flows of money, controlling perception, and seizing opportunities while others hesitate. Think of the young tycoon who launches a product at the exact right moment and seems to explode overnight. Think of the influencer who rises from obscurity to millions of followers within a year. To the outside world, it looks like luck, but Machiavelli would shake his head. It is never luck. It is always design. These men positioned themselves at the right gate, then charged through it when others were still asleep. The Venetian merchants once grew rich not by building ships, but by controlling the passage of spice and silk. They owned no cargo, yet every caravan paid them tribute. Today's rich operate the same way. They don't fight with their own swords, they own the bridge others must cross. The tragedy is that most people refuse to face this. They would rather live with illusions than confront the brutality of the game. They cling to the belief that a steady job is noble, that saving slowly will eventually lift them. That security is the ultimate prize. And so they work and work and work, while the few who understand power rise quickly, take boldly, and bend the world to their ambitions. Now you must ask yourself, which game have you been playing? The game of survival or the game of domination? Because as long as you remain in survival, your ceiling will always be set. You will last, but you will never rise. The man who survives is timid. He fears loss. He clings to what little he has. The man who dominates accepts risk because he knows that fortune only rewards courage. Machiavelli observed that fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, you must conquer her by force. The timid man waits for the right moment and dies waiting. The bold man seizes and lives remembered. But here is where the story turns darker. Because if you do not break free from the servant's mindset, you will not only remain poor, you will become fuel for another man's rise. You will give him your labor, your time, your loyalty, and in the end, your years. And while he climbs, you will watch from below and wonder, why him, not me? Yet the answer is simple. He chose boldness, you chose safety. He acted as prince, you acted as servant. And that, more than anything, is the trap Machiavelli would warn you about. The illusion that hard work equals freedom. It is the single greatest lie that keeps men poor. And unless you unmask it, you will keep building castles for others while living in a cage yourself. The question now becomes, if labor does not create wealth, what does? If safety is slow and boldness is fast, what specific principle accelerates riches? The answer is as sharp as a blade and as old as power itself. If you want to understand why most men remain poor, you must first understand who benefits from their poverty. Machiavelli knew that rulers design systems not for fairness, but for control. He wrote that the people are always impressed by appearances, and the world is composed of the vulgar, who will always be taken in by what seems to be rather than what is. What seems to be the truth is that diligence and loyalty will buy you freedom. What is true is that this diligence only strengthens the ruler while chaining the servant. Hard work alone is the trap. It keeps you useful to another man's design. Look at the hardest working people in society. They rise before dawn, labor with their bodies, give everything they have, and yet they end their lives with little more than survival. This is no accident, it is by design. Machiavelli warned that the man who works for another is always a servant, but the man who makes others work for him is always a master. This is the raw distinction that separates the broke from the wealthy, the obscure from the powerful. It is not a question of hours worked, but of control. The rich do not sell their time, they arrange systems where others' time enriches them. Consider Jeff Bezos. He is not packing boxes at Amazon warehouses. He is not driving delivery vans. Millions of workers perform those tasks. Bezos became one of the richest men alive because his decisions moved billions of dollars at once. The muscles were someone else's. The leverage was his. The same is true of Elon Musk. The rockets may be engineered by teams of brilliant scientists, but the capital, the narrative, the bold strokes, all flow from his control of the vision. The lesson is clear. The wealthy sit at the top of the machine, not inside of it. So how does this apply to you? You must stop measuring wealth by effort and start measuring it by influence. Ask not, how many hours can I work? Ask instead, how many decisions of mine move the money of others? Because the man who positions himself so that his voice shifts capital, attention, or resources multiplies wealth at a speed the worker can never touch. Machiavelli understood that power attracts loyalty because humans are wired to follow those who project certainty. We trust the one who dares when we hesitate. We follow the one who moves when we doubt, and this is why boldness is speed. Safe is slow, bold is fast. Look at history. Julius Caesar did not tiptoe his way to power. He crossed the Rubicon when others feared civil war. That single bold move accelerated his rise faster than years of cautious politics ever could. The same principle plays out in business. The entrepreneurs who seize new markets before anyone else, whether in crypto, AI, or media, become the rulers of those spaces. They do not wait for perfect timing. They create it by acting before the crowd. But let us speak honestly about the consequence of ignoring this law. If you choose the slow path, if you choose to remain cautious, you are not simply moving slower, you are moving toward a prison. Picture the man who works 40 years, saving diligently, only to retire with barely enough to scrape by. He has given his youth, his energy, and his creativity to someone else's empire. His reward is survival with a smile, poverty dressed in politeness. This is why Machiavelli would call him a servant, not a sovereign. The cage may be gilded, but it is still a cage. The truth is brutal, but simple. The wealthy set up the game so that the masses build their empires for them. Every hour you trade for wages strengthens their position. Every purchase you make feeds their companies. Every delay in your boldness gives them more time to consolidate power. You are taught to admire their success while being blind to the fact that you are the one who funds it. And if you never wake up, you will spend your entire life constructing palaces for kings while you sleep in a hut at their gates. So what is the alternative? Machiavelli would urge you to think like a prince, not like a servant. The servant asks, how can I make money? The prince asks, how can I build power? Because power is the magnet that pulls money toward it. Control attention, and you control markets. Control resources, and you control survival. Control opportunities, and you dictate the pace of wealth. Money does not resist this pull. It rushes to it. This is why the dynasties of history did not rise from sweat. The Rockefellers built monopolies by controlling oil, not by drilling every well themselves. The Rothschilds shaped finance by mastering credit, not by stacking gold with their own hands. Today's equivalents are no different. The social media magnate who captures your attention, the hedge fund that controls billions in capital, the politician who directs policy. They all play the same game. Control first, money second. But control is not given, it is taken. Machiavelli was blunt about this. Fortune favors the bold. To sit still is to die slowly. To move decisively is to live quickly. The question is not whether you will face risk. It is whether you will embrace it on your terms or suffer it on another's. The servant fears boldness because it threatens what little stability he has. The prince embraces boldness because he knows it is the only path to expansion. So how do you begin? You must cut the dead weight. If your environment is a cage, you must walk out. If your labor enriches only others, you must redirect it. If your hesitation keeps you in the same place year after year, you must strike. Build ownership, however small at first. Own a business. Own attention online. Own assets that grow without your daily presence. Own decisions that move others. Ownership is the escalator that lifts you past decades of grinding. And here lies the shift. Once you taste even a fragment of control, you will never mistake hard work for wealth again. You will see that money follows direction, not exhaustion. You will see that others' loyalty, time, and energy are resources to be commanded, not envied. And in that moment, you begin to play the game not as a servant chasing crumbs, but as a strategist setting the table. Yet this is only the beginning, because as Machiavelli warned, once you step onto the path of power, the game changes. It is not enough to escape the trap of labor. You must also learn the engines that accelerate wealth at unnatural speed. Boldness, leverage, perception. These are the forces that separate the man who inches forward from the man who seems to fly. And if you can master them, you will not simply be free from poverty, you will terrify those still enslaved by it. The next step is to uncover how these engines truly work, why hesitation is death, and why fortune always falls into the hands of the bold. But understand this, once you hear it, you will no longer be able to live comfortably in hesitation. Machiavelli warned that fortune does not reward the timid. In The Prince, he compared fortune to a woman, saying that she is more friendly to the bold than to the cautious. He did not mean this as poetry, he meant it as a strategy. Boldness bends outcomes, hesitation kills them. If you wish to understand the fastest way to wealth, you must understand that fortune respects movement, not passivity. The man who waits for certainty dies waiting. The man who acts while others doubt seizes what they will never touch. This is why the rich so often appear to rise suddenly. To outsiders, it looks like luck or destiny. In reality, it is speed. They move before hesitation robs them of momentum. When an industry is born, when a trend explodes, when a new technology emerges, who becomes wealthy? The first movers, the ones who acted while others debated. This is why in Silicon Valley, fortunes are made not over decades, but in years, because those who strike early command markets before the cautious arrive. But boldness alone is not enough. Boldness must be paired with leverage. Machiavelli wrote that rulers who relied only on their own arms were always weaker than those who commanded the arms of others. The same is true for wealth. To build quickly, you must stop relying solely on your own labor and begin multiplying through others. Think of leverage as the great force multiplier of wealth. A lever allows one man to move what his muscles alone could never lift. The poor push with their hands, the rich push with levers. There are 4 levers that accelerate wealth faster than anything else: money, people, knowledge, and attention. Let's examine them as Machiavelli would. The first is money leverage. The poor fear debt and hoard savings. The rich weaponize capital. They ask not, "Can I afford this?" but "Whose money can I use to control it?" From the Medici bankers funding kings to modern private equity firms buying companies with borrowed funds, fortunes have always been multiplied through other people's money. If you want speed, you must learn to view capital as soldiers, ready to march on your behalf. Saving slowly is the game of servants. Commanding capital is the game of rulers. The second is people leverage. Alone you move like a snail. With others, you move like a storm. Leaders multiply themselves by directing the time, energy, and loyalty of followers. A CEO who controls thousands of employees is moving with an army at his back. An influencer who directs millions of fans has weaponized attention at scale. Machiavelli observed that men are eager to follow strength and certainty. Project these, and you will never lack hands willing to build your vision. The third is knowledge leverage. Knowledge alone is not power, applied knowledge is. Wealth is created when you act on what others do not yet see. The Venetian merchants enriched themselves by spotting new trade routes before rivals. Investors in the early days of the internet multiplied wealth because they saw the curve before the crowd. Machiavelli counseled rulers to act decisively when intelligence revealed an opening. The same applies to you. Learn constantly, but act faster than hesitation allows. Information unacted upon is wasted potential. Information seized becomes fortune. The fourth and most potent in the modern world is attention leverage. Machiavelli wrote that rulers must appear to be merciful, faithful, humane, religious, upright, even when they were not, because perception is often stronger than truth. In our age, attention is the currency of perception. If you can capture it, through media, charisma, or influence, you can convert it into sales, partnerships, and power at staggering speed. This is why unknown faces become household names overnight, and with their names, fortunes follow. Now consider the alternative. Those who refuse leverage struggle endlessly. They insist on doing everything alone. They save instead of commanding capital, labor instead of directing others, consume information without using it, and remain invisible because they never capture attention. Machiavelli would call this weakness, because he knew that rulers who rely only on themselves are quickly destroyed. A man without leverage crawls while his rival soars. The psychology behind all of this is simple but ruthless. People are drawn to momentum and certainty. They rally behind those who move boldly because boldness signals leadership. When you act with conviction, even imperfectly, others invest their money, their loyalty, and their time into your rise. That transfer of energy is leverage. And leverage is why wealth, once it begins to move, accelerates faster than most can comprehend. But there is a cost. The faster you rise, the more resistance you will meet. Machiavelli warned that he who causes another to become powerful ruins himself, for such power has been built either by force or by craft, and both are suspect to the one who has risen. Translation: when you climb quickly, others will envy, doubt, and attack you. They will try to block your path. They will call you reckless, arrogant, or undeserving. At first, they will laugh at you. Then, when your bold moves pay off, they will envy you. Finally, they will chase you. This sequence never fails. First doubt, then envy, then pursuit. Understand that envy is proof you are on the right path. If no one resists you, you are invisible, and invisibility is death in the game of wealth. The servants will never attract enemies because they threaten no one. The princes will always attract resistance because their rise alters the balance of power. Resistance is not a curse, it is confirmation. And yet, most men collapse at the first sign of resistance. They retreat, convinced they move too fast. But Machiavelli would urge you to see it differently. Opposition is proof of momentum. If no one stands in your way, you are not moving boldly enough. If enemies are appearing, it is because you are already reshaping the field. So the lesson is this: boldness, leverage, and perception are the engines of speed. They multiply your influence and pull wealth toward you in ways hard work never will. But they also paint a target on your back. The question is whether you are prepared for the storm that follows. Because the faster you rise, the more you must defend what you build. And here we approach the final stage, the endgame, where wealth becomes more than money, where speed becomes rule, and where your survival depends not just on seizing fortune, but on fortifying it against inevitable attack. Machiavelli understood that power never rises without enemies. He warned that a prince who rises rapidly must expect hostility, for men envy those who advance. The moment you climb fast, resistance appears. Rivals who feel threatened, old allies who turn against you, and institutions that see you as dangerous. But rather than fear this, you must see it as confirmation. If no one envies you, if no one whispers against you, then you are not moving fast enough to matter. Opposition is proof that your strategy is working. Look at history's climbers. Caesar's bold march across the Rubicon ignited civil war, but also crowned him with absolute power. The Medici bankers faced constant plots and betrayal, yet their dynasty shaped Florence for centuries. In our time, tech titans like Musk or Zuckerberg attract relentless critics and political attacks. But these assaults do not weaken them, they confirm their reach. The lesson is simple: If you are not making enemies, you are not yet a prince. This is why the endgame of fast wealth is not merely money. It is building a fortress around your power. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler must lay his foundations on his own power, not that of others. In wealth, this means structuring your empire so that it cannot be easily toppled. Money by itself is fragile. It can be stolen, taxed, or inflated away. But when money is tied to control of resources, attention, or networks, it becomes something greater, influence that regenerates itself even after setbacks. Consider Rockefeller. He did not merely sell oil, he controlled its flow. Competitors could be replaced, but Standard Oil dictated the pipelines. Consider modern media empires. They do not simply profit from ads, they control how billions perceive reality. This is fortress building. It is wealth wrapped in layers of power, reputation, and necessity. Once others need you more than you need them, your position becomes untouchable. This is why the wealthy do not fear losing money. They know that fortune follows their power. Strip away their cash, and they will build it back, because they control the levers others do not. The man who only has money is vulnerable. The man who commands leverage is immortal within the game. So what does this mean for you? It means your focus must shift from chasing wealth to engineering systems of control. 3 pillars define this strategy: position, perception, and precision. Position means placing yourself in arenas where leverage exists. Machiavelli advised rulers to occupy territories rich in opportunity and hard to dislodge. In our time, this means entering industries of scale: technology, finance, media, or any field where a single move can multiply into millions. The poor toil in dead markets where nothing grows. The rich plant themselves where wealth flows naturally, then claim a share. Perception is the second pillar. Machiavelli taught that appearances often matter more than truth. A ruler who appears strong is often treated as strong, even if his foundation is fragile. This law is brutal, but undeniable. In money, perception is reputation, brand, and influence. If people believe you are powerful, competent, and bold, they will invest in you, follow you, and lend you their trust. Wealth often follows not the man who deserves it, but the man who seems destined for it. This is why leaders polish their image relentlessly. They know that in the game of speed, trust is capital. Precision is the final pillar. Boldness without calculation is recklessness. Machiavelli admired courage, but only when paired with foresight. He wrote that fortune rewards those who act with force and with prudence. The rich who rise quickly do not gamble blindly. They move faster than the crowd, but with calculated risks. An investor who sees a market before it explodes appears reckless to the masses, but in reality, he has done his preparation. To outsiders, his fortune looks sudden. To him, it was engineered. When you master position, perception, and precision, you no longer chase money. Money chases you. Investors call you. Customers line up. Partners beg for your time. And once this reversal occurs, your speed compounds. You rise at a pace that feels impossible to those still stuck in the old game. To them, you look lucky. To you, you simply applied Machiavelli's rules. But let us not soften the truth. Most will never do this. They will cling to comfort, approval, and safety. They will wait for certainty and miss every opportunity. They will choose the slow path and end their lives in invisible poverty. Machiavelli would not pity them. He would simply say they lacked the courage to master fortune. The chains of hesitation are self-forged. The question is not whether wealth can be built quickly. It is whether you have the stomach to endure the envy, the risk, and the attacks that come with speed. Because fortune does not kiss the timid. She rewards the one who seizes her by force. If you want to move fast, you must strike where others hesitate, project certainty where others doubt, and fortify what you build before rivals can tear it down. So here is the call. Stop waiting. Stop doubting. Stop asking for permission to act. Pick one bold move you have delayed and execute it today. Not tomorrow, not next week. The servants of safety will spend their lives watching others rise. The princes of boldness will shape their own empires. The difference between them is not luck, but speed. Machiavelli's whisper is clear across centuries. Fortune belongs to the daring. Wealth is not given, it is taken. And the fastest way to riches is to stop playing like a servant and begin ruling like a prince. Work will not free you. Safety will not save you. Only power, boldness, and leverage will lift you. In the end, the fastest path to wealth is not about money at all. It is about command. The man who commands the flow of money, the loyalty of others, and the attention of the crowd does not rise slowly. He ascends like a storm, leaving the cautious crawling in his shadow. And when he stands above them, they will call him lucky. They will call him ruthless. But he will know the truth. He played the game as it was meant to be played. Machiavelli's way.